In this episode of the Mamas con Ganas podcast, I'm interviewing Chevonne O'Shaughnessy, film producer and co-founder and president of American Film International. Chevonne and her business partner and husband, George Chamier, produce and distribute high-quality commercial motion pictures throughout the world. Chevonne is also a philanthropist and makes guest appearances at Chapman University, where she teaches international film distribution. Chevonne also happens to be the executive producer for the movie I filmed back in May last year. Hence how I got to meet and work with this fabulous woman. Welcome, Chevonne, to the Mamas con Ganas podcast.
Thank you. I'm very excited. It's very fun.
And thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule to share your story. Your story is very inspirational. Well, we met last May, and I had the opportunity to talk with you. I knew right away that I had to share your story if you in the podcast. First of all, tell us a little bit about your background. Where were you born and where you grew up?
I was born in Kissimmee, Florida, before even Disney was even there. So at that time, when I was born in 1962, it was Main Street in Kissimmee. And my grandfather owned a big farm, and he owned the hospital that was in Kissimmee. And my mother was pregnant with twins. I'm a twin sister, and she was at Notre Dame, and she ended up flying back to her house to be with her father and had us. So I was born in Kissimmee, Florida.
But you didn't just grow up in Kissimmee, correct?
No, I did not.
Tell us a little bit about your moving back.
After mom gave birth to the twins of us, we went back to Minnesota, and we lived in Minnesota, where my dad got a job working for a investment company, because my great grandfather was Global Oil. So there's a lot of investments to be made. So we lived in Minneapolis until I was 8 years old, and then we moved to Arizona for 1 year. Where my dad went to Thunderbird to get an international business degree. And then we moved to London for another year. And he graduated from a university in international business from the London Business School. And from there, we went to Colombia. I was 10 years old, and we moved to Colombia, Bogota. And my dad put us, my twin sister and I, my little sister at the time, into an all Spanish speaking boarding school in the middle of nowhere. It took us almost an hour and a half to get to the school in the buses, and back in 72. And the only thing that was out there was girls in uniforms and sheep. That was it. And we would be there all through the week, and then we'd come home weekends. And the school is called Marymount. And the first year was the worst. I mean, I didn't speak Spanish. I didn't know how to write Spanish. Yeah.
I went to Marymount in Paris. In Paris.
Oh, you did?
Yes. It was not a boarding school, though. I think it was a boarding school before, but by the time I was there, it was no longer. Oh my gosh! So tell us a little bit about everybody was speaking Spanish. Continue.
Everybody spoke Spanish. Nobody spoke English. The only thing that was in English was the English class, and everything else was in Spanish. Geography, everything. So we had to have tutors. There was nuns everywhere, and they were tough. I mean, thank God they were tough, but I learned Spanish. And then the first year we would come home every weekend, and we'd say to our father, how could you do this to us? How could you do this to us? Because there's an American school.
Yes.
And it was called Nueva Granada, but he wouldn't put us in that school. He kept us there, and he put up with us. I mean, we were complaining every day, every weekend for the first year. And after the first year was thank you, because I still speak Spanish, even though I'm going to be turning 60 next this week.
Oh my gosh. So that you sort of developed a love for Latin America at that point. It was and you moved around a lot in any case, but I think when you move to a country where you speak a completely different languages, it opens up, our eyes in so many ways.
And you become one of them. I mean, you get their music, I was 10 till I was 15. So it was also your developmental age. And I got to, dance with the Colombians, be part of it. And it was great. I loved it. And then I came back to the United States at 16 years of age. There was boys in school. I mean, I was an all-girl family. So boys, and it wasn't that I wanted to do anything. I just wanted to hear them. I'd been with girls for so long. I just wanted to hear what they thought. So I did that. And then when I went to college, my grandmother sent me to Rome.
To Rome, Italy.
to Rome, Italy. And I had a year abroad, and I remember when I landed on the plane and I'm taking the bus with all the other students, I remember saying to myself, I am not leaving here. I love this. I want to be here. And I ended up staying for 5 years.
Wow. So how did you, and what did you study in Rome?
I said international business.
International business.
Yeah. I got married to an Italian. I did go back and forth a little bit. So we were married for 10 years. But one time after I was married and had my daughter, was lucky enough to have a trust fund at that time and was taking a little bit abuse of it. And I got a telegram. I don't know if you even know telephone telegrams exist. It's not that they come to your house, they call you on the phone. And I answered the phone in Italy, and the lady said, this is a telephone telegram for you. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, well, the telegram says there will be no more monies. And I'm like, no more monies. Oh my gosh. And
so you went from being a trust fund baby, I guess that's what you would call it, right?
Yeah, I would call it myself. Yeah.
Were you
going to school? I had an apartment. I had cars. I had $8,000 a month back in 84 at that time, where I could do anything with. And I mean, $8,000 a month net, and the apartment's paid for, your cars are paid for, this is paid for. I mean, I went and got my hair done. I got my nails done a lot of times, but after a while, it got very boring.
So all of a sudden now, I mean, that must have been quite a shock.
It was a shock. Because I had a wonderful husband, but he wasn't providing. The money I was giving was helping him. So I sat on my terrace, cried, thinking, oh, this is devastation. And then saying to myself, how much money as a woman can I make in Italy versus how much money as a woman can I make in the United States?
Huh.
And even though I loved Italy, I mean, I still love Italy to this day. There is a ceiling of how much you could do. And I wasn't Italian. So I still was a foreigner, even though I spoke the language, could write it, could do everything else. I was a foreigner. So I decided to go back home to my mother's house.
Wow.
But in the interim, I had my husband. I wasn't broke. I mean, like I say, I was totally broke. I mean, we could sell the apartment, we could sell the cars, but I didn't have time. So I told my husband, you sell all that stuff and I'll go back home and I'll start getting us a job and getting us situated. So when you come, everything will be good.
Okay.
So I was sitting in I went to my own bedroom. I was sitting in my mother's house, and I felt very proud because I had my international business degree. And my mother comes up to me and she goes, Chevonne, guess what? In Orlando, Florida, Universal Studios is opening up in Orlando. And this is me to my mom. Who cares? Disney World, Circus World, Sea World, Busch Gardens, Alligator Land. I mean, you name a park, we have it in Orlando. So I was like, Mom, I don't care. Don't care about parks. Your daughter has an international business degree from American University. I'm going to do something import-export. So I don't care. So I was going to the Chamber of Commerce, and I was going to meet some people doing international business, and 3 months was going by and I didn't have a job yet. So all of a sudden I had done convention sales many years ago in Orlando, and the Orlando Convention Center called me up and said, there's a job opening. Why don't you come? I said, okay, great. And as I'm driving, now I grew up in Orlando, I get off on the wrong exit. And there, when I get off on the exit, was Universal Studios being built. And have you had that voice in the car, or that something's talking to you while you're by yourself?
Yes.
And that voice in my head said, go in, go in, go in. And I'm looking at myself going, I don't have time for this. I got to go to the job. And I drove in, and the guy at the gate, again, it was being built. And I said, I'd like to apply for a job. Where's the employment agency? And if you ever been to a park, they're never next door.
Yes.
It was like a 7-mile ride. This is before cell phones, before MapQuest, before anything, behind swampland, going around. I did it, and finally find this parking lot, and I see the employment agency, and I park in, and I go, I don't have time for this. I have to go. because I'm one of those anal people that have to be at things early. And I'm fighting with myself in the parking lot. I don't have time for this. I got to go. And I literally felt being pushed going to go in there.
You
And
like, you felt like an energy
felt
just,
something was pushing me to go in there.
huh?
And I went in and I had attitude because remember, I don't have time for this. I got to go. So I go up to the counter and I said, I'd like to apply for a job. Well, what would you like to apply for, to work for? I don't know. I have no idea, what jobs Universal has. The only thing I know is I have an international business degree from American University in Rome. And I speak Spanish, I speak Italian, and I speak English. And the guy kind of looked at me and he goes, well, I know one of our independent producers just came back from Italy, and the Italians had kind of taken him, so he was complaining, and he's looking for somebody to do international sales for him. Maybe you can apply.
Oh, wow.
I was like, Universal has that kind of a position? I didn't even know. So I applied. With 500 people had also applied. And 2 weeks later, I was sitting at the Cannes Film Festival. And that was 32 years ago.
Wow.
And that's all I've been doing since.
Wow, that's amazing. So
Mhm.
did you, now, once you started working, did you feel like right away that it was an industry that you liked and that you enjoyed? Or did it take a while for you to say, okay, this is what I'm going to keep on doing and what I'm going to get really good at?
Right away.
Right away.
Because it was everything I wanted. It was international. I mean, I'm traveling the world.
Exactly.
I selling. I mean, I didn't really study film. I didn't study film. I studied international business. So a product is a product, and I was selling it worldwide. And I got to go to all these places. And I don't, in Cannes back in 1989, it's all in the hotels. And you got your booth. And again, I didn't know anything of this. You get your booth, and as you're coming out of the hotels, people are standing around with their cameras. And then all of a sudden you go, mwah, mwah. And then all of a sudden you hear, oh, she's blah, blah, blah. I know her. She's in that TV series. But you're not, but you're playing the game because it was Cannes and everybody was doing the same thing. And I loved it. I loved everything about it. And to this day, as I said, I've been doing it for 32. You have your ups, you have your downs, but there's nothing else I want to do.
That's amazing when you actually get to find that. That's like a sweet spot in life. I think not many people have the la dicha, like we say in Spanish, to to have that ability to really work, because I think when you love something, you put everything into it, everything. If you're passionate about it, then it's just working is what you actually want to do, instead of feeling like you have to come into work and just dragging your feet and just can't, waiting until Friday. I feel that when you're passionate about your job, you can work on the weekends even, and late, and you feel like you're actually there working on your mission.
True. It's true. And the nice thing is that when you're passionate about it, you meet the right people. I mean, even though it was Universal Studios, it really wasn't. It was an independent that I was working for who had independent films, because the park, none of the big people from LA were coming to Orlando. So it was an independent. And he was from Martin Marietta. And I can literally say from the first position, I learned everything what not to do in the business.
Huh.
His attitude was like, if I can screw you right now, it doesn't make a difference because there'll be another 150 people behind you. But that's not the international community. The international community knows everybody. So if you mess up, everybody knows about it. So that was not my attitude. And I met George at the time. We were competitors, but fun competitors. And we started working together because I left that part. And his idea was that all of us, no matter what, you're all going to be high and they're going to be lows.
Absolutely.
But if you treat your customers and your producers and whoever with respect, they'll go with you through the bad parts. But if you don't, it's not like you're just going to screw them. So we kept our clients for the longest time. And we have clients from France that we've had for 32 years. We've had our clients for, it's amazing. It's the same people. And I feel like I'm just a traveling carpet instead. Instead of putting carpets down, I'm putting posters up, and I'm bringing a cup of coffee, and we're sitting down and we're negotiating and we're selling movies.
So the majority of what you do is sales then. It's sales and relationship building.
But I'm lucky enough that when I do the sales, I know what my clients are looking for. And
Uh-huh.
when I know what my clients are looking for, that's what I make. And when I first started, we were making 12 films a year. That means one a month.
That's a lot.
But we knew that there was a outlet for movies. I mean, for American movies. So like I said, we were doing 12 and we had long-term relationship. We made TV series, LA Heat, then we did 48 Hours, then we did another one for 24. And then things started to change. I don't know if you all remember when the advertising came and reality came into play.
Yes.
And like how to become a millionaire, how to do that. So all of a sudden those time slots and even shelf space started to diminish because now you had something else that was coming in. So you had to be able to move quickly because we did 175 action movies. I mean, I was the queen of Crash Boom Bam. Yeah, very little dialogue list, which means you're going to translate it because it was just stunts and they would go on forever. And then we moved from that to thrillers. And
Are those more costly? Those like when it's because it's very little dialogue and a lot of special effects, or is it all done on?
It's done at budgets. I mean, they were bigger, of course, because you have to have the cars, you have to have the stunts, you have to have the coordination. But what I'm saying is that it was easy to sell internationally because people's lives were already difficult. Huh. So for an hour and a half, they could get into this action movie of not really thinking and just go on this adventure of Crash Boom Bam. But then it became too much expensive and there wasn't a channel in the United States that was taking as many as them. I mean, in the beginning, HBO took them all, but then HBO turned around and did series. So you have to be able to move.
So it seems like it's a very evolving, it like evolves a lot and it changes quite a bit.
It does. It does. I mean, it changes very quickly. I mean, as I can say, I started with Cindy Bond. We started Mission Pictures, even though we still had American cinema, but we started like a faith-based content because at that time, everything had gone so violent, so negative that the pendulum was going to swing. Make sense? You know, when you have so much violence and killing, and I saw all of a sudden this pendulum of something, people wanting something else. And a girlfriend of mine had just done the animation called The 10 Commandments. And we met when this whole transfer was going on. And she kept asking me to sell it. And I'm like, Cindy, I don't sell these type of movies. I sell Crash Boom Bam. That's who I am. I'm a Crash Boom Bam lady. But it had the voices of Christian Slater, Alfred Molino, and Ben Kingsley. I mean, which were great names.
Wow, yeah.
And I said to my husband, I said, let's just try it out.
Yeah.
What difference is it going to make? We got a booth. We'll put one panel and we'll put this movie up and the actors and let's see if we can sell it. I sold it enough to him. So he said, okay. And we took it to the market. And literally, I ended up selling the whole world this one title, except one territory. And the funny part was, the one territory I didn't sell was the territory I thought I was going to sell first.
Huh? Which territory was that, if you don't mind me asking?
Israel.
Oh, wow.
And you know what they said to me?
What?
We already know the story.
Huh.
Which they didn't want from a Christian person to be telling their story, which is true. But
yeah.
I ended up selling it to Middle East for even during Ramadan. They took it because it's the Old Testament. So they all believe in the Old Testament. I sold it to China. I sold it to India. I mean, it was amazing because I said, I had never seen this market. I didn't even know there was this type of market. And this type of market was accepting product that was not even good. So I went to the person who gave it to me and they said, Cindy, we have to not just have one title a year. If we're going to do this, and we should start doing this, is making a product line that they can depend on. So we bought and we acquired about 75 faith-based movies.
Wow.
And in the international market, We had in South Africa even a mission night that on Monday nights at 8 o'clock, you could make sure you got a mission film. And then in Latin America, it was the same thing. In Mexico, we went to Televisa, and Televisa was just starting, and we got, not starting, their cable thing. And we gave them a night, and we gave them 24 for a full year of movies. So we built this up and then started our own productions, which was Love Finds You and Sugar Creek, Love Finds You.
Yes, which have been super successful.
Super successful. Yeah, it was funny because Guidepost was one of the books. And the books of Guidepost does a newsletter to 6 million people. 6 million people. So I'm going with my shoulders going. I got 6 million people. They're going to go to the channel. And it was a small little channel called Up TV that was going to air them. And during the time we had just finished the first one, the channel goes, you know what? We've decided we don't really want to be targeting the 50 and 60-year-olds. We want to target the 35-year-olds.
Huh.
And I'm like, what? What? Your channel is 50 and 60 and above, just like Hallmark is at that time. And they go, oh, no. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Guidepost is only 50 and 60 above. I gotta get now to that 35-year-old. How do I do that? And again, it was one of those come to Jesus moments where I'm sitting to myself, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden, I said, Love Finds You. That's a dating site. And I called all the dating sites, and I was able to put on Match.com, Christian Mingle, blah, 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 you name it, banners or skins, they were called, of the movie across their platform. And at that time it was cheap. It wasn't expensive. And we called the chief of the channel, and we said, we really think we're going to hit 2 million views on our movie. And the guy at the channel said, Chevonne and George, let me explain to you. Our highest rated movie to date is Passion of the Christ on Easter. And that has only done 700,000 views. Do you really think you're going to beat Jesus? Or his little words that he said to us. And we're like, oh God, I don't know. We aired. And of course they do five showings of it because they do the next day and blah. Within the first week, we did 4.7 million views.
That's amazing. What did they have to say about that?
Then they thought it was a fluke. They thought, oh, this is only because you got Kelly McGillis, and Kelly McGillis had not done an Amish movie since she became the Academy Award, which we did have Kelly McGillis in it. Oh, it's a fluke. You can't ever do it again. So they gave me another one, and it was called Love Finds You and Charm. 4.7 million views. And then they gave me one more. And then they said, Love Finds You and Valentine. And that even did more because it was Valentine's Day.
Of course.
And the guy who played the main Lacasse was the one who played Jesus in the TV series that Mark Burnett and Roma Downey did.
Okay.
So everybody's like, what is Jesus doing? So Jesus was doing on Valentine's, Love Finds You in Valentine. And it got publicity. So we did 4.9 million people.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. And so, I mean, that's why we finished, we changed the label, but we did Love Find You in Mountain View, and then we did Finding Love in San Antonio. We did Finding Love in Big Sky. So it's a continuation, but we have to move it, and that's when we changed to Latin. We changed to a little bit more of a more inclusive of people. So it's just modifying it, but we know how to get to that core faith-based people because the books are faith-based. Our movie is not, but they support us every single time.
It seems to me that you listen to your gut quite a bit, because you have people that are doubting you in the midst of while you're trying to do it.
All the time. Yes.
Right? How do you get past that? Like, how do you find the confidence within yourself to not listen to all the external voices that keep doubting you, and to just kind of go with what you sort of know within that is right? How do you find that?
It's a hard question to answer because you fall, all of us fall sometimes, but when you know it's right, it just, it gives you like a wall not to listen to them in a sense. I mean, we did an Amish movie after we did the Love Find You. I still wanted to make another Amish movie. And my husband was very scared. He was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden I'm watching a show and the whole thing came to me. And I brought this writer and we did it. And he's like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, because I never write. I'm let me put this specific. I'm not a writer. I never claim myself to be a writer, but I know after reading a whole bunch of Amish books, what works and what doesn't work. So I've done 3 of them now. And the last one was +1 at an Amish wedding. And just something comes over you and you just feel it, just like finding love in San Antonio. I knew when I met Francisco that this was going to work, and Yvonne, that this is what we needed to do.
Yeah, Francisco and Yvonne worked for the other production company.
Yeah,
that
because it was a co-production. It was a co-production with them, and they're wonderful. And it was just, we know this is going to happen. Maybe it's not going to happen as fast, but we know it's something that is needed right now.
And I remember you mentioning also that you're always sort of looking, not what's the trend at the moment, but you're always looking ahead as to what's the next trend to come.
Yeah, think of it like clothing. We all love clothing. I love to watch clothing. So when you're watching a movie that was made a year ago, so when you're looking for the projects, you have to anticipate what is going to be the next year. Just like in, what was this year is what you're looking at, but they've already thought about it a year beforehand. So it's always looking to what that new niche is going to be. And we were lucky enough, besides yours, I also did some in South Africa, and we did on BET, and we also got the Christian group then, because again, it's our movies are clean. Our movies are such a way, and this is what excites me also. My movies are where the whole family can sit down and watch a movie and not have to worry that they have to close their eyes or grandma's going to see something that she doesn't. It's all inclusive, the whole family to watch. They're all clean. I don't hammer religion on you, but they're a fun romance. If you want the religion, you can read the book.
Yeah, it's very, I think it's very important, because I myself sometimes struggle on a Friday or Saturday night when we're sitting down to watch something as a family. It's like, let's find a movie that's not a cartoon that we can all watch without me having to be, worried about my 4-year-old son, because now my 2 older ones are almost 14, so it's different what they can watch. But there's a lot of movies that I'm just not able to put on because of the 4-year-old. So I find that you really have something there for families. This is wonderful to be able to sit down, all of us, and not have to worry about that.
Right. And grandmas and our older people are starting to live with us more than they used to.
Yes.
I mean, I have my mother very close to me, and she's 82. And I can't put on certain things even I want, because she goes, oh my gosh.
It's true. I've had experiences like that with my grandmother. They're like covering their eyes, and it's embarrassing.
So I'm like, okay, Mom, don't worry. These are fine. These are fine for you. And a lot of this passion, even for mission, came about. My daughter's 34 right now. And as I said, I used to do Crash Boom Bam, but when she was little, but the I don't know if I call it censoring, the product that my daughter was able to see on television without me being able to block it. Not that I'm prudish, it was just a little too much. It was like, I don't know if you remember Girls Gone Wild.
Yes, of course.
And these things, and she kept saying, Mom's just a prude. She and kind of lost herself for a while because of that whole thing that was going on. And now I think she's brought back, and she's great. I mean, she's 34 and she's doing wonderful, and she's a mother. But for that young age, I thought, and it was Disney too. Disney was doing, everything was very sexual, and everything in the product that I thought I was, oh, Disney's no problem. Go ahead, honey. Watch Disney. It became nothing to help the children grow. It became just to promote sexuality, which
sort of what's popular rather than what instills good values and
right.
And a good morality with our children, because at the end, that's super important. Just like it's the basics. It's the foundation, the foundation of a family. Absolutely.
So that's what got me excited about it.
Chevonne, what's the hardest obstacle you've had to overcome in your career?
Being a woman, for starters. I mean, when you talk about being a producer, and I was a producer on your movie, not an executive producer. I was a producer. So when it becomes a producer part, the males are like, oh, women can't become producers. Oh, it's too difficult. It's too this. You have to be there on set and so forth and making decisions. And men will only respect other men. And usually that's true. But as a whole, most of the time, everybody, I mean, our set was very quiet. Our set was very fun, I felt. When I'm on set with males, I feel more tension. The males dictating what they can say and what they can. Everybody are more fearful. I don't think we had that on ours. And plus the director was also female.
Yeah, no, it was amazing experience. Actually, I remember my co-star George Akram, he was like, I remember specifically him telling me, like, I've never worked in a movie where the producer's a woman and the director's and there were so many women. And he says to me, he turns around and says to me, I like this. Like, I like the energy. It feels more, a little bit more relaxed, like more peaceful. It's like, and I think that's why it's so important to have a mixture of the male and the
Mixture.
female energy, because I think
Mix.
yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix and it's a balance, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you think there's a lot more women now that are doing what you're doing and
it becomes harder because the studios are trying to make the independents get out. They don't want us. They want to control the whole market. So it makes it harder and harder to do more films because you don't have the outlets. And before it was so easy because you kind of had the foreign market and then you do the US. Now I was telling my Cindy, who's still friends of mine from Mission, that the market is flipped. You have to get the US first before you get the foreign. So it's being able to change and just be able to do it. But again, I think the other strong point we have is we don't make our budgets based on just what we think. We get what we can get in the market, and then we base our budget around that. So if the market can only afford a certain amount of money, that's the amount we make the movie for. Make sense?
absolutely.
You know, because I teach in school and they're like, oh, my budget should be 1 million too, or my budget should be 2 million or 5 million. I'm like, okay, where are you going to recover those monies? We kind of know because we do the sales, we know where the market is and where it has to be at. And it keeps going down and it keeps going down and it keeps going down. It's not gone up yet lately.
Interesting. And you think that there'd actually be more of a decentralization because of the fact that you have outlets now that are like, you know, you have the Amazon and the Netflix and the Hulu, but are they not separated? Is it?
Well, Hulu's Disney.
Mm.
Hulu's Disney, and at the same time, Amazon is selling product. Yes, they want our films, but they're mainly selling detergent, soap, and food for you to go get. And Disney has so much product. And I think the one thing that has kept us alive is the niching part. The type of movies that we make that nobody else is making and at the price that we're making them at.
And that there's a need for it.
And there's a need for it. I mean, none of the channels in Latin America would take my movies before for 3 years. Nothing, no romance. Oh, no. They only wanted horror, cutting up people in Mexico. And we're getting 5 million views. I mean, because there is a need for these type of products in Brazil, in Latin America, Mexico. They're loving it, but the TV channels won't buy it.
Wow, maybe they're not realizing how much people need that kind of
I know.
content, because it's so, and you know, when you're in Latin America, there's so many things. I mean, coming from Venezuela, there was always so much hardship and violence. You would already hear like the hardship and the violence in your world every day. Sometimes you need an escape from that. I think that's precisely why Hallmark does so well, is because people are sitting down and they already know coming into it that they're gonna that they don't have to
Feel
worry
good.
about it being a bad about ending, you know, that they know everything's gonna be all right, everybody's gonna be happy, and who doesn't
That's
want
true.
to feel that everything is gonna be okay?
Well, they did a test. Disney did a test on how people feel when they watch certain movies.
Okay.
So let's say you're watching a horror movie. When you're watching a horror, you're shocked and you're suspenseful. But if you're watching like a CSI, you're calm and intuitive because you want to know who the bad guy is. But when you watch a movie like Rocky or an inspirational that the girl went down and she comes back up and she succeeds, you have happy thoughts for a whole week,
Amazing.
one full week. So I'm like, ooh, I make happy thoughts for a week.
Yes. No, absolutely. And then the opposite, the other way around. I remember watching a series. It was a narco trafficking series.
Mm.
And I remember wanting to get through. It was a really good series, but I wanted to get through it as quickly as possible because I was realizing that it was affecting my sleep and that I couldn't go down to sleep for a long time after watching it because the very violent images would stay in my head. And
Yep.
that was a couple years ago. And to be honest with you, I haven't really gone back to watch stuff like that because I just realized it impacts my mood in such a way.
It does. All of it does. So,
Absolutely.
and I like good energy. I mean, do you remember when we were on set, I was telling you to pull down the good energy and we would do ha, ha, ha. And it just to make sure everybody had the energy to do it. And good.
Yes. You wake up very early, Chevonne. I remember you were waking up like at what, 4:30 in the morning
Yeah.
or
I wake up 4:30.
how do you have the energy to do that?
It's been doing it for so long, I don't even think about it anymore. I get my exercise in, so I don't have to worry that I do it later. I'm not a night person. I mean, I come to a certain point in the evening but you can get me up at 4:30. I can make my phone calls at 5 o'clock with the buyers international. And also I'm seeing them, WhatsApp is great because I get to talk to my buyers in France, Spain, Italy, or the Middle East. I see their picture, we talk on the phone, we finish, and it's done. So WhatsApp has been a great invention for me, for at least.
Yes. No, yeah, for everybody that has people
Mm.
internationally, it's amazing because it's a way to communicate and like having them and texting them right away. Yeah.
Right away. And you get a response right away. So it
Yes,
makes it so much easier.
absolutely. Okay, so for any of our listeners that would like to do what you're doing and would like to become a film producer, what advice do you have for them? Would it be, for example, like, would you recommend doing school, like studying that, or going into business like you did? What do you recommend?
Well, study school is good. I mean, I that was one of my things. I always felt like I didn't know the seeds as they do in school, but I was a seller. So not that I make it come any less, but a widget is a widget. So I was selling a widget and I had to make sure I knew what my value of that widget was. And I think some of the film school people forget that you're selling a product no matter what. I would, if somebody really wants to do this, I would have them talk to different distributors. Distributors will tell you what is needed in the market, but find your niche, find your little niche, because right now there is so much product out there that you have to make sure like I'm a little boutique. I call myself a little boutique. We do Black, we do Spanish, we do white, we do, but they're all romances, they're all clean, they're all based on books, and there's a lot of following, and we know how to get to those. I mean, we know how to get to that small newspaper in Arkansas and Little Mountain View that nobody even heard of, but and the moms and the, that are going to be faithful and show up for our movies.
Nice. Wow. So it's really, yeah, like it's very niche then what you're saying.
Very niche.
Wow. Do you have a favorite book?
Oh, favorite
book. You keep mentioning books, and I know you read a lot of scripts and a lot of books. Do you have a favorite one?
Right now, the only, not that I don't have them as favorite, I like them because we're gonna start our first series, and it's called the Sugar Creek Amish Mysteries. So there's a series of 30 books, and I'm up to 22 already. So I just need to read it for work, but I've gotten so involved in them that when I don't get my next book, I'm like, where is it? Where is it? I need to finish it. So they're kind of fun, and we're going to make a series of them coming up soon.
Very cool. What do you think has been the secret to your success?
Being able to pivot. pivot fast, pivot, looking what is the new thing in 6 months, looking to see what the new trend is going to be, and follow, and making sure we make our budgets to what the market can afford.
I like that. So a lot of it is numbers too, because if the numbers don't.
Totally numbers, totally numbers. And there's ways of making things. I mean, like I said, when we first started with Mission, we had very religious movies, which again, I'm Catholic. My partner was Protestant. I'm not trying to convert anybody. She was. They totally different agenda. I think we've been here for a long time. I'm okay with that. But there's ways of doing the same movie for different crowds.
Yes,
for example,
there's lots of denominations there.
Denominations, but if you want that religious Protestant part, you have the guys go there to the minister and open the Bible, and then they quote from the Bible, or they come to Jesus moment. But you do that same scene, pop it out, take it out, have the same person, but do it with a friend. And instead of opening the Bible, they're talking about the problem. Make sense?
Absolutely.
It's once you open the Bible and once you start quoting from it, now you're putting yourself in a very limited space. Because now you're determining whose religion is better than this. But if you have that same scene that they're confused and they don't know, but it's a friend, or they don't open and they still could be a minister or a priest, but they don't open and start quoting, then you're okay. So that was learning those two things. It's like, yes, we can do the same religious and have them for these people in that version. And you don't have to change the music track, and you don't have to change the audio. You don't have to do anything. The same amount, just the same timing, just pop them out in two different scenes.
And what's good about that too, when you're not so, I guess, you're not so divisive in terms of denominations, is that you can reach more people, because more people can relate to it. And it's the same message at the end, the same good message that you're trying to relay to others.
I'm a seed planter. I'm not a over the top here. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. No. But my friend was, and that's what she wanted to do. So that's why Mission I sold to her, and she paid me out. And then I spied Inspires. But that was her mission. Her mission was to convert people.
Now, you're so successful at this point. What drives you now at this point in your life to just produce movie after movie after movie? Like, what's your driving force?
Oh, no, it's a series. I haven't done a series. I've done movies, and I love movies, but they have a beginning, a middle, and end. Now we got a series, and we're going to have to keep it going we're doing our first 8 hours, and it's fun.
That's exciting. And I love series. Actually, I was watching a movie when I was coming back in the airplane from Europe on Monday, and I loved it so much, the movie, that I said, why didn't they make a series? This is genius. Like, this should be made into a series. It was The Darkest Hour. It was based on Winston Churchill's darkest
hour.
I
saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
And I loved it. Like, historically, I was learning so much, and his speeches, and I was just like, this would be such a great series.
Yeah, that you can keep enjoying it. That's what it is.
Yes.
So
and then, go ahead. No, I was saying that also with the as an actor, you get to evolve in a manner that you don't get to when you do a film, because you really get to unpeel the layers of that character that you are developing, and it makes it so much of a richer experience, because you go on for so long. So I think that's one of the reasons that series have become so popular.
Yeah, and they get you. I mean, once you get there, they know they're going to have this amount of time, so the advertisers are all excited about it.
That's
so
right. Do you have a personal mantra?
A personal mantra, yes. I am happy. I am a happy, spiritual, international billionaire.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And the other thing I do, because there's going to be a lot of times we're going to be told no. Let me put it that way.
Yes.
And the energy of getting no is very depressing, and it keeps you down, because, oh, they told you no. And the channels tell me no a lot too. I mean, it's not like I get yes all the time. I get no's, and I have to deal. But when I shake it out, you know what I put on? What? I do Helen Reddy. I am woman, hear me roar. And numbers too big to ignore. And I just shake it all out, because I just have to keep going. What can I do? Yeah. So
yes, because a lot of people fear rejection. I think it's one of those things that holds people back a lot, is that fear of the no, like you said.
Yeah, but our husbands tell us no. I even tell my husband, Automatic. My husband gives me the knee jerk. Honey, can we do this? No. So I kind of, I used to get mad. Now I kind of go, give me 8 times. By the 8th time, I know I'm going to get it. So now it's like a game in my head.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Like, well, and in Spanish, you know, the saying, el que no llora no mama. So
Yeah.
whenever you want to ask for something, you have to ask for it in order to get it.
To
Because
get it.
the baby that doesn't cry doesn't get the milk. It's the same thing. You just have to insist.
But in the beginning, when he used to give me no right away, I'm like, oh my God, how could he tell me no? I'm this great person. So now I kind of laugh and go, yeah, honey, I understand. No problem. And I give myself 8 times. And then by the 8th.
Gosh.
And
What
it's
is
the same with business.
It's the same in business.
Same
Absolutely.
as,
What's a dream you have yet to fulfill? Because I know you had told me when we did the movie last year, you said you had a huge goal, which was the 10 movies a year that you produced
Yeah.
last year. You said if I get to 10, it's like, wow. So
well, I made the 6. Remember I said I had my moonshot was 6 and I made the moonshot. Now we're doing 10 and I have the 8 series and I have I have 2 Christmas movies.
wow. So is there like a goal? Like right now, do you have a goal that's like, okay, now I need to
My
get
next moonshot. See, my moonshot are those ones that you don't think you could ever ride. And
exactly.
you just put it out there.
Okay.
And my moonshot is to make my series as big as When Calls the Heart. I want 1 billion fans.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And I have a YouTube channel. It's called ACI on the Go.
Mhm.
And we're already at 280,000 subscribers. And our goal is to get to 1 million subscribers by the end of the year.
That's amazing. I love it. Talking about social media and subscribers. So tell us about the YouTube channel again. So in case
It's
somebody
called ACI on the Go.
ACI on the Go. And
Yes.
are you also on social media? Where else can people find?
I'm on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
The company's also on Facebook as well as ACI is the Facebook, and we're on Twitter and TikTok
Under ACI.
under ACI.
Awesome. Well, Chevonne, anything else, and any final words that you wanted to leave the women that are listening to this episode?
Listen to your gut. I mean, it's the one that's going to lead you, but you got to be quiet enough to listen to it. Unless they slap you or push you like they did me. But otherwise, your gut knows. Your gut knows what you should be doing. And you should be just following it. Just have that quiet time and say, what do I want? What do I want? And all your dreams are there to come true. They are.
I love that. Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this episode. This is amazing. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. What a blessing to have worked with you and to have you now on the Mamas con Ganas podcast. I know my mamacitas will get an inspirational empujoncito this morning.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we're all great. As women, we are incredible. We just need to remember that.
Yes, yes. And when we're pushing each other forward and we're helping one another up.
Helping one another.
Yes, I think that's one of the things also that I really admire from you is the fact that you're always willing to lend a hand and to mentor women and to give them opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Men have it. Men have had it for a long time. It's our turn to teach them. And we got to support women.
Absolutely.
So I do women in film. I do green light woman, whatever there is, as long as it's women, I'm good.
Yes, because the movie that I did, it was precisely that. I was like, wow, the protagonist being a woman, that's really cool,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Chevonne.
Thank you.
1,000,000 de gracias por suscribirte, escuchar y compartir nuestro podcast. Si tienen preguntas, comentarios y más, pueden visitar nuestra página web mamasconganas.com or follow us on social media at mamasconganas. You can also write me directly at info@mamasconganas.com. Hasta la próxima, es Valentina recordándote, don't be a mama con drama. Let's be mamas con ganas.